This is Bishop Michael Burbidge, and you are listening to the Walk Humbly Podcast.
Welcome to the Walk Humbly Podcast. I'm Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the Diocese and your co-host. If you haven't yet, please rate this podcast or write a review wherever you're listening, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. You can also sign up for our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org/email. So we've made it easier for you. You don't have to go to the footer. It's arlingtondiocese.org/email to sign up for that e-newsletter. You can also follow Bishop Burbidge on Twitter. More than 18,500 of you already do, at Bishop Burbidge, where every day you can read a short reflection on the gospel of that day. And you can also follow the Diocese on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to send in a question for Bishop Burbidge to be answered on the podcast, email us info@arlingtondiocese.org. Again, that's info@arlingtondiocese.org. I now welcome your host, Bishop Burbidge. Bishop, how are you doing?
I am doing well, Billy. It's great to be with you and our listeners, and to assure everyone that you all remain in my daily prayers, especially the masses that I celebrate each day, that God is giving you and your families the strength and peace and most likely the perseverance and patience that we need at this time. So prayers are with you, everyone, and thanks for listening to the podcast.
And just a reminder for everybody, Bishop Burbidge has been celebrating a live stream Mass every Sunday. If you want to get an email reminder of that, go to arlingtondiocese.org/email and sign up. Bishop, last week we had a little sense as to when exactly we would begin reintegrating society and our economy. Since then, a lot has happened, and Governor Northam has talked about what phase one will look like and how those restrictions are beginning to loosen a little bit, especially for churches. What should people expect from the diocese as we go through these phases?
Sure. Well, Billy, I'm sure that many of our listeners and our parishioners are very happy to hear, as I am today, that the governor announced that phase one will start on May 15th,
right? Yeah.
Reopening. So phase one, how this applies directly to us, allows houses of worship or churches to operate at a 50% maximum capacity. That allows for requires social distancing too.
Right.
So the maximum 50% of the capacity of the church, unless that's what the governor said, unless a local jurisdiction determines otherwise.
Right.
So we have to continue to
we'll
monitor
see how that goes,
situation, right? So as I mentioned, the change requires social distancing. This may not be able to be applied universally across the diocese, as some parishes may not be able to safely accommodate public celebrations of the Mass at the 50% capacity. We do not yet have details of what phase two will look like. But when phase one, beginning May 15th, so that weekend then.
That's next weekend, yeah.
Right, so where churches and parishes are able to have the public celebration of Masses with all the requirements that will be necessary for the health and safety of our parishioners, we will begin to initiate that phase. It's not a mandate.
Right.
It's a permission to do that where we are able to do that.
Right. And you formed a reintegration working group that you've mentioned before. How are they helping you?
And they've already been at work, right?
Right,
because we've been anticipating this day.
Right.
Quite surprisingly, it's sooner than I anticipated, especially at this capacity. But
That's great.
We welcome it. I've participated with other faith leaders in talking with the governor and his directors, his executive directors, speaking about the necessity of when it's safe and possible to begin to open our churches. Our people need this. So we were really trying to, give all the encouragement for that to occur. And I'm pleased to receive this news today. And then again, this was other faith leaders involved in this conversation also. So we haven't delayed. Our reintegration working group has been at work.
Absolutely.
And it's composed of pastors, which represent the parishes and from all the regions of our diocese, public health professionals, medical experts, and others who can help advise me and make recommendations about how to return to normal. So we're going to rely, as we have done from the very beginning, on the experts that help to keep us safe.
Very good.
So that's important. On the same day as we record this podcast, I will be releasing a video message that will include some of the principles that we will be using to reopen our churches. But again, this news just happened. So
Yeah.
we'll be working hard all weekend, and no later than Tuesday, have some more specific guidelines and directives to our parishes and to our pastors. Okay.
Very good.
But here's a few key points.
Okay.
First of all, and this is important, I think, for our listeners to hear. Currently, our parishioners are dispensed from attending Mass on Sundays and holy days of obligation.
Right.
That dispensation stays in effect.
Okay.
All right, so that's across the board for everyone, because some people may not feel, this is the right time for them to come back to church, may not feel safe, and I don't want anyone to have any anxiety about that. So that dispensation continues. The process, as we know, is gradual. We're only at 50% max with social distancing. Church is going to look different when you come back. There's going to be heightened disinfection practices, hand hygiene will be necessary. Certain things like the sign of peace, we can't continue to sign of peace at a time like this. The common chalice, the distribution of precious blood,
right.
People bringing up offertory gifts. Some of those things will look a little bit different. I'm asking our pastors where it's possible, because people are, not everyone will be returning or be able to return to Mass, to continue live streaming Masses as we have been doing throughout the diocese. That would be a great spiritual help to our people. So we'll keep working with those who are guiding us and those ensuring us that we are also cooperating fully with the health requirements and safety requirements that are necessary. But I do want to encourage all of our listeners. I am very much want to help you in your spiritual well-being, but your physical well-being is important also. So please be safe, and you have underlying conditions and you fall into those high-risk categories. Please be at peace of staying home and making your spiritual communion and live streaming Mass. Be safe also.
Very good. Bishop, before we go to our guest for this podcast, Pope Francis has called for May 14th to be the World Day of Prayer, Fasting, and Works of Charity. What should people know about that day and intention?
Yeah, so this is kind of breaking news.
Yeah.
We found out about it just yesterday or the day before. So Pope Francis has accepted the proposal of a committee that advises him so that believers of all religions could unite spiritually on May 14th. So that's a great sign that we're in this together, right? In a day of prayer and fasting and works of charity. And the intention of the day is specific to help humanity, our world, our nation, overcome the stopping the spread of the virus.
Yeah.
So they're powerful tools, prayer, fasting, charity, for a specific intention with people of all faiths and denominations. So it's not just for Catholics. And the Holy Father is encouraging people of all faith and beliefs to join in prayer, showing that solidarity against confronting this pandemic that has crushed us in so many ways. And there's really the encouragement will be more to practice those works of prayer, fasting, charity in a private way. It's not going to be like a single ceremony we're all going to have.
Right.
But the encouragement to individuals. And we'll give some guidelines maybe for people to consider.
Absolutely. So again, stay tuned for that. That's May 14th. Today we have a couple guests on the phone. Bishop, why don't you introduce and welcome our guests for this week?
Sure. One of the things we decided to do during this pandemic was to have guests who are just sharing with us and our listeners, how are they making their way through this pandemic? What are some of the things that have been blessings to them or challenges them? We had that beautiful guest, Sherry, talking to us about works of charity.
Yeah.
And then just last week, Father Stephan, how the works of healing in hospital ministry as a chaplain continue.
So powerful.
And so I thought it'd be helpful, too, to talk to one of our young people. Certainly a senior in high school is definitely impacted by this pandemic and the things that would be occurring at this time of year. The events and even graduation. Our seniors are so impacted, and his mom is with us also to talk about family life in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm really very happy to have as our guest this week Frank Paquette, an Eagle Scout and a senior at Paul VI High School St. Paul VI High School, as well as his mother, Teresa. So Frank and Teresa, welcome to the Walk Humbly Podcast.
Thank you so much, Bishop Burbidge. How are you?
I'm doing well, Frank. I certainly miss being with you and your friends at school. It's always a highlight of my ministry, but I'm glad we can be together today. Maybe I could just ask your mom a quick question first, Frank, if that's okay. Yeah, Teresa, please, would you just tell our listeners about your family, how many children you have, and just a little bit about your family?
Yes, good morning, Bishop Burbidge. Thank you for having us on today. My name is Teresa Paquette, and I am married to Ed Paquette, and we've been married we're coming up on our 25th wedding anniversary this June, and I have 5 children. They range in age from 20 down to 9. I have 3 boys first, and then my 2 daughters, and we live in Vienna, Virginia, and go to Our Lady of Good Counsel church and school, and I have an 8th grader in Our Lady of Good Counsel, and just a quick thing to thank you for that Mass this week that you said for the school children, and especially pointed out the 8th grader. She was thrilled to have
that's great to hear. I was so honored to do that, and congratulations to you and your husband on your anniversary, and thanks for your faithful witness to married love and for the gift of family life and your support of Catholic education. We're so grateful to you. So how's your family holding up during the coronavirus, and any best practices that you might want to share with our listeners?
Well, there are a couple things that really have stood out for our family. We are all in different directions in the past 5 years. We have college, 2 different high schools, and then a grade school. And my husband works a lot, and I'm home and helping at Our Lady of Good Counsel or Paul VI whenever I can. And I think that prayer has entered our family in a way that it hasn't in a few years in terms of us being actually physically together to pray.
Oh, yeah.
We've always kind of tried to emphasize that, but now we spend actually time, because we have time, all 7 of us together outside in the backyard saying the rosary, and sometimes a neighbor will even join in over the fence.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
And that certainly is not something we have had time to do. I will say the rosary in the car usually while I'm driving someone an hour away to a practice.
Right.
So for me to have had the opportunity to slow down with my children and visit with them in both a spiritual way and a social way, and just have them living in this house all together and not really able to escape,
right?
better word, has been really a blessing for me, and I'm very, very sorry that it comes under the circumstances that it does. But I don't think families in our country get this opportunity very often to be together.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are able to be together, we're very grateful to the people who are out there working and keeping us safe so that we can do this.
Yeah.
Because this is a luxury to be able to be home together. My husband does go to work during the day, and he works at a Nova hospital at Fairfax. But even though he goes off during the day, we are all together for dinners. And that hasn't happened in years either, since they were little.
Yeah,
so this had many blessings to our family in that sense.
Well, that's wonderful. And like you said, we owe so much thanks to your husband and other people working in hospitals and healthcare facilities, especially at a time like this. And, it's beautiful, that you and your family, we know that God is always in our midst. And even in these trying times, there's blessings to behold. And it's so wonderful to hear how you are, as a family, experiencing this quality time together, this prayerful time together. And like you said, probably certainly under such sad and unfortunate situations, but time that this does not come, this kind of quality time together just has not been part of family life in our busy, demanding, hectic world. And so to embrace that as a blessing is just a great example. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you. And also I have to thank you and Our Lady of Good Counsel and the high schools, St. Paul VI and Gonzaga, where my other son goes, for giving us the tools to pray and to watch Mass and do all of those things together.
Right. And it really reminds us of the partnership, doesn't it? It's like the parents are the first teachers, we know that, of their children in ways of faith especially. But we're partners. We help and support each other in the education and formation of God's children. So it reminds us of that partnership we're so blessed to have. So thanks so much, Teresa. And Frank, it's your senior year. As your mom mentioned, I spoke to our 8th graders the other day at Mass, and because if it's your graduation year, this impacts our graduates in a significant way. How has this impacted you, the pandemic, especially your senior year in high school?
Well, it's definitely not going to look the same as we expected it. That's for sure. The biggest thing that I've seen is it's so crazy how quickly things that we can't even imagine happening become a reality. If you had said to me 2 months ago, due to this coronavirus, we wouldn't be graduating or having senior prom or doing any of the normal traditional things that seniors in high school do, I wouldn't have believed you. But now that it's a reality, the only thing that we can really do from our standpoint is work with what we have in a sense. And what I've seen is there are a lot of people that are really bummed out about it, and a lot of people that have kind of lost hope and as seniors upset at all these expectations that they had and things like that. I consider myself very blessed and very lucky because I'm right now trusting my school a lot, and they've been really hard at work trying to make it so that this isn't just some forgettable experience. And so our school in particular, I think, has been trying to see what they can do to make it a special experience for us as seniors. And so this is something that we won't be, trying to forget. It'll be a memory that we want to hold on to. Just from the other day when we went to go pick up our caps and gowns that we had ordered from the school, all the teachers were lined up and there were balloons out and it was a little celebration there. So everything that they're doing, they know that they have this kind of responsibility, not necessarily to make us happy or to do anything like that, but they the care that they have for us. They don't want to see us miss out on something like this, and they're trying their best to make it a special experience.
That is so wonderful. It says so much about our Catholic educators, and thanks for sharing that. And like you said, Frank, that even in this critical time, very different than what you thought your senior year will be, God is giving you memories that you'll embrace and keep. So we are grateful for all those who are making that possible. What do you think you will miss the most about? I love going to all of our Catholic schools and always have a great visit going to Paul VI. What do you think you're going to miss most about it?
Oh, that's a good question, Bishop Burbidge. It can go, I would have to say, just the people and like you said, just the way that our Catholic schools are in this diocese, the teachers and staff is something that I've seen as an irreplaceable benefit to at least Paul VI, and I'm sure all Catholic schools here, but just the teachers and the staff, that they're so loving and caring, and they really want what's best for us. And I'm sure you saw it when you were just walking around, that everyone is there's such a tight community, and everyone is happy to be there because the people running the school want us to be there, and they are excited every day to be able to teach us. And so the teachers and the relationships that I've been able to form with them, and also my friends and my peers in class and stuff like that, it's something that I'm definitely going to miss, having those relationships and people that I can go to for advice and to look up to and things like that.
Yeah, as you said, Frank, it is so evident from the moment you walk in the building to see that kind of rapport and care and love and concern for each other. And, as you mentioned, too, and it kind of leads me to my next question, is, to see that the Catholic educators, the joy they have in their vocation, in being called to participate daily in the faith formation and education of students. That's what God calls us to do, to be happy in living out our vocation, using our gifts and talents for His purposes and for His glory. So you are a very gifted and talented young man. What's your future hold? Where will you be this time next year? What do you hope to study?
So that is the question right now, Bishop Burbidge. As you know, I was looking, and I was looking for your advice too about pursuing the University of Notre Dame for next year. And believe it or not, I got off the waiting list a couple of days ago, which I'm very excited about. And so we're trying to make that decision right now based on visiting and things like that, which is a hard thing to do now for, I'm sure many seniors have witnessed, is it's the college decision-making process has been kind of flipped on its head as far as,
true.
Visiting schools you can't really do anymore unless you want to visit an empty campus. Things like taking a gap year, whether or not we're going to be back in class next year. So
Right.
There's definitely a lot of uncertainty surrounding it because of that. But I'm right now just kind of trusting that there's a plan for me, and it's hard for, sometimes to see where that plan is going to be leading me. But I'm just kind of keeping an open mind and seeing how things progress, because we don't really know with this COVID situation how things are going day to day.
Right. That's a great approach. And no doubt, Frank, the Lord will lead you where He needs you to be. And that's great. That's a great trust and a great way to approach that. You recently completed a very interesting Eagle Scout project. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I'd love to. So the October of 2018 was when I started it, and it ended up being an 8-month-long project. And the goal of it was to construct these outdoor stations of the cross behind my parish, behind Our Lady of Good Counsel in Vienna. And it was just like each one was just a little like a post with a shrine on it. And it's in that kind of a back, more secluded area.
Yeah.
And this was like, at the time I was a 16-year-old and like trying to figure out also my way through high school and things like that. And it was just like such a journey for me to complete it, because, it was like construction. It was like people management. It was like budget management, everything like that. And it was, that's like another testament to the organization of Boy Scouts. But it was just like the journey I knew from the beginning would be a hard one, but I knew that I wanted to make it worthwhile. And so the thing that the reason I chose Decisions of the Cross is because I actually just wanted to give to that parish, because I had gone to school there from kindergarten to 8th grade. I'm an altar server there. That parish and that school is like my second home, basically. And so I knew that I wanted to give back to that. So I just reached out to the liturgy director and asked him like what projects he needed, and he suggested that. But the amazing thing is that I never could have guessed what good would come out of it later through this virus, because the virus struck at such an interesting time in our liturgical year through Lent and through the Easter season, just because it's such a time in the year where like normally everyone is coming together around these the Holy Week and these amazing liturgies and things that we have. And it's such an interesting thing that like the Easter Vigil Mass was a live stream this year. And so little things like that changed because of the coronavirus made a big difference, and things like how much our community is thirsting for the Eucharist and things like that. And so normally every Friday our parish has a Stations of the Cross thing like in the church, like a ceremony, and we have it's different every year. Sometimes every week, and sometimes we have silhouettes. Sometimes we have like different bands come and play. But since we couldn't do those anymore, I noticed a lot of people were turning to those outdoor Stations of the Cross that I built, because throughout Lent, like everyone's going through their own struggles, especially at this time. And so it just gave them like a safe way where they could observe social distancing outside in a secluded area and just just really reflect on like the cross and the passion and things like that were important during Lent that otherwise that experience would kind of have been left out in a way.
It must be such a blessing for you to just to see how God used your gifts, your talents, and your project to help His people during this time. I can't imagine what that made you feel like to see people having that opportunity to make the Stations of the Cross, which is such a powerful devotion, as you said, but they were able to do it outside because of your project. It's amazing how God uses what we offer Him, isn't it, to help His people. And I'm sure your project has been a great inspiration and help to so many, Frank. So thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Teresa, can I just ask you one more question? And again, wishing you and your husband many blessings on your anniversary. And as you know, some of our engaged couples have had to postpone their weddings due to the coronavirus shutdown, and they're rescheduling it at a later time. Any advice you have for them as they had to adjust and await the day of their marriage?
What a difficult thing for them. It's hard enough waiting to be together and to be married during your engagement, and it can be very exciting and very, it's full of anticipation. But to have that wait then delayed even more because you've chosen to, I don't know if some parishes are allowing people to marry just the priest and the couple and a witness.
Yeah, we are. Yes.
Yeah, and so I think that waiting could be, if you choose that you really want your community with you or your family with you, and you do decide to put it off, that waiting could be probably relatively excruciating. And I've been thinking about that question and about what young people or people who are engaged have to deal with. And I think the only thing I can think of is actually quoting you more so, and that is through prayer and sacrifice and fasting and doing for others is the only way to pass the time till you can be together. And it's a pretty good opportunity under bad circumstances to build up your own faith life and to try and really focus on what your faith life together is going to be like, because you're not going to really get this kind of time again in your life, probably until you're older, to really reflect and slow down and think about that. So I think if they can take the time and by doing good works in your community, and I know you can't go out and do them, but whether, it's giving money to an organization or trying to do meal packs for the Lamb Center, OLGC Parish has so many opportunities that they've given us to do. I think if you were single and you were waiting to get married, if you could do some of those things, that'll pass the time. It'll make you feel good about yourself and it'll allow you to give more to your future spouse.
That's great. That really is. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure our married couples who are listening, are preparing for marriage would really appreciate that advice. And we are allowing, for our listeners, our churches have remained open throughout this. We are celebrating confessions with the social distancing. There have been baptisms, with the restrictions of no more 10 people. Same with weddings. Some couples have said, well, we still want to have it on the same day, and there's no more than 10 people there. Many are rescheduling. So I think your advice is very, very helpful there. So Teresa, thanks so much for sharing that. And Frank, thanks for being part of this podcast. I wish you, Frank, and all your classmates in all of our high schools, I congratulate you. Graduating from our high school is a significant accomplishment. Our high schools are strong in education, and if you successfully complete those requirements, it means you've worked hard. It means you've persevered and been dedicated. So congratulations to all our graduates, and I wish you much happiness. I'm going to be participating in your virtual graduations with a message to share with graduates. But if I could just say to all of you, please be proud of your school. Please be proud of your Catholic faith, and take all those things that you've learned at Paul VI or whatever high school, Catholic high school and grade school you've been to. All those lessons you've learned, it's been for a purpose, is that you'll take them and that faith conviction to the next stage in your life. And at that next stage, those faith, those morals, those convictions may be challenged. So you're going to have to stay strong and stay close to the Lord in your prayer, so you can be that witness that He so desperately needs on whatever campuses or whatever places the Lord will send you next. So congratulations, Frank, to you and your classmates.
Thank you so much, Bishop Burbidge. That means a lot, especially from you. And it's been an honor to just, be a part of this podcast, also just to have these resources that you've been giving out and just been able to kind of get to know you over the years.
Well, same. I really appreciate that. And Frank, Teresa, I thank you so much. And I ask God's blessing upon your family. Thanks for being such a great witness to us. God bless.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, that was something special.
Really, very, very special.
What a beautiful witness, and what a great family.
I know Frank is such a fine young man, and so many of our young men and women that I've meet in our high schools reflect those same beautiful qualities. We're so blessed with the young people in our schools, in our church, and no doubt, they are fruits of good, holy families and great parents who share so much with their children. So Frank and Teresa are reflective of so many of our young people and families here in our wonderful diocese.
Absolutely. So we have time for a couple questions. The first is, in all the confirmations you have done in Arlington, what is the most unique saint's name that you've seen used, and what's the most popular?
Oh, yeah. The most popular ones are easy. That's an easy question. It's Cecilia for the girls usually, and Sebastian for the boys. So,
really?
Yeah. So I always say, to them afterwards, so your confirmation name is Cecilia. I guess you're a musician.
Yeah.
Or an actress or singer, of course, because Cecilia is the patron of music and all. And Sebastian's the patron of athletes.
Okay.
So a lot of our athletes. So Cecilia and Sebastian make their way to the confirmation name. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do hear a saint's name. I can't think of many right off the top of my head, but there are sometimes after a confirmation, I have to honestly go up to the newly confirmed and say, I don't know about your saint. Can you tell me something about him or her? I've heard of the name, but I didn't know much about Saint Genesius of Rome. That someone took, Saint Genesius of Rome, and I found out was an actor, a comedian, a playwright, and most importantly, a martyr.
Oh, wow!
Someone who died for the faith in the year 300. And Apollonia was a name that I did not hear before. Saint Apollonia, who actually was the student was telling me was as a young person was I think tested in faith and was actually jumped in a fire rather than to renounce her faith.
Wow.
And so the young person was encouraged by that, example. So I really do love learning about the reasons why our young people choose a saint for their confirmation name and the qualities that they hope to imitate, in living out their own lives.
I remember when I was getting confirmed, my dad gave me a book of saint names, and there's like short biographies on them, and he said, "Why don't you figure one out?" Right. And I was going to just use Saint William because my name's William, and I wasn't a very creative teenager. But so I saw it as kind of a tour. But as I dug into these biographies, I was stunned by some of these witnesses. So I ended up going with Saint Ignatius of Antioch. Yeah. But I would have never thought that would have been a powerful exercise. But what a great exercise it was! It showed me, one, how good I have it that. I'm not in a position to have to be martyred. Right. Like you're saying, someone that threw themselves into a fire. Right. I'm not in that. How blessed I am. But do I have that character and conviction in my faith to do it? It was a great question as a young person to ask yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very good. All right. And the next question is, while we are all attuned to the plight of lay people during this crisis, we are curious how our priests are faring. They are normally so busy managing churches and schools. Are they finding themselves less or more busy these days?
Yeah, and it's funny. What I hear, and I talk weekly with the bishops of our province and region. We do every Friday at 9:30. So see how we are all handling this and what some of the best practices are. It's been very helpful. And I know I've been talking to our priests also, and they're saying the same thing the bishops have been saying. We feel in many ways especially during the day, is as busy as ever because, there's so many ways to continue to stay connected spiritually and pastorally with our people. And it's involving, some time and same at nights, having virtual meetings with couples getting married and even, youth groups and faith formation. So the physical presence is not there, but most of our priests are saying the same as I'm experiencing. It feels equally as busy, but obviously there's, with some events taken off your calendar, there is a little bit more time. And one of the things that is really, really beautiful to know that our priests are saying the same thing almost Teresa was saying about her family, that the priests are spending more time together praying, spending more time together eating together, so they're using that time to kind of build up that priestly fraternity, to have quality time that sometimes in normal state of life we do not have. So they're approaching it, as many of our families are, as a family blessing. I have to be very careful. I live next door to the cathedral rectory here, where there's 4 priests, and a couple of them are tremendous and cooks, both for dinner and dessert. So I said, if we don't get back to normal soon, I'm going to be like 25 pounds heavier. People aren't going to recognize me. So, but it's great for me also to have that priestly fraternity, with some brother priests.
It seems like a lot of obligations have just been replaced with something else.
Yeah.
Bishop, any final thoughts, and if you would send us off with your blessing?
No, that this weekend we will be celebrating Mother's Day, and I would like to extend my prayerful best wishes to all of our mothers. Thank you for the beautiful witness and example you give to your families and to your children. Thank you for your sacrifices and for the way you live out your vocation. What a great gift you are to those who love you. I know that many of us, myself included, our mothers are with the Lord in heaven, and we certainly miss them, especially on a day like this. But we know that they are dear to us and in our hearts and close to us, and we certainly pray for their eternal happiness and peace, being forever grateful for all that they have taught us. So happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers who are listening. And together, let's keep praying for each other, everyone. Let's stay strong in faith and joyful in hope, so that together we may walk humbly with our God. Thank you for listening to the Walk Humbly podcast. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where I offer gospel reflections each morning and share photos and updates of what is going on in the Diocese of Arlington. Stay up to date with news, event information, and inspirational content by subscribing to our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org.